They didn't just kill his brother. They tore him down in the open grass and began eating before the fight was even finished, and the lion who survived did not forget a single second of it. This happened in the southern Serengeti at the end of the dry season, when the land was flat, yellow, and unforgiving, and every mistake cost blood. The two brothers were a small coalition, both about 4 years old, recently pushed out of their birth pride, outcasts but strong. They had survived because they moved together, hunted together, slept side by side, 2 bodies, 1 rhythm. That morning they crossed into the wrong stretch of land. It was not marked clearly, no trees, no hills, just endless grass and heat waves rising off the ground. But 5 older nomad males had already claimed that zone, 5 fully grown lions, heavier, darker, hardened by years of fighting. They were not brothers by blood, only by opportunity, and they did not tolerate rivals. The ambush came fast. One charged from the left at full speed, dust exploding behind him. Another cut off the rear. The remaining 3 closed the space with brutal timing. Suddenly, it was 2 against 5 in the open, with nowhere to hide. The brothers stood back to back at first, roaring, swiping, biting hard enough to draw blood. One of them clamped onto an attacker's face and refused to let go. The other rammed his body into a larger male and drove him sideways through the grass. For a few seconds, it looked possible, but numbers change everything. One brother slipped in the chaos, just one misstep in loose soil. That was enough. All 5 males collapsed on him at once. They did not go straight for the throat. They targeted the back legs, the hips, the spine. They dragged him down under their combined weight. His brother tried to break through, biting into a mane, slashing at ribs, roaring so loudly it echoed across the plain. But every time he grabbed one lion, 2 more smashed into him from the side. The fight turned into a storm of bodies and dust. Then something shifted. The fallen brother was still alive when the first deep bite tore into his flank, still struggling when another male ripped open his abdomen. This was not a quick territorial execution. It was a statement, a brutal display meant to break any future challenge. The surviving brother stood a short distance away, chest heaving, blood across his muzzle, watching as the 5 began feeding while his brother's body still twitched beneath them. He charged once more, a final desperate push, but 5 full-grown males hit him together and nearly ended him too. He broke away barely in time, wounded but standing. He retreated to a low rise overlooking the scene and turned back. He did not leave immediately. He watched. He watched until the movement stopped, until the 5 lions finished and walked off, bellies heavy, satisfied. Most young males would disappear after something like that. They would move miles away and avoid that coalition forever. That is how survival works in the wild. But this lion did something different. He did not run from that land. He stayed near the edges of their territory, quiet, careful, healing, watching their patrol routes, learning their patterns. Because what those 5 older nomad males believed was finished that day was only beginning. They had removed one rival, but they had left the other alive. And he was not done.
The 5 males believed the message had been delivered. Territory secured, rival eliminated, the plains quiet again. But the brother they left alive did not disappear into the horizon like most defeated males would. He moved carefully along the outer edge of their range, keeping distance but never fully leaving. For weeks he said nothing. No loud challenges, no reckless charges, just patience. His wounds healed slowly, deep cuts along his shoulder, a torn patch near his ear, bite marks that would scar thick and pale. He hunted alone now, smaller prey at first. Warthogs, young antelope. He avoided direct conflict. On the surface, it looked like retreat. It wasn't. It was rebuilding. He began watching their rhythm. Lions, even dominant ones, are creatures of pattern. The 5 males patrolled together most evenings, roaring in deep synchronized bursts to announce control. But during the hottest hours of the day, they split. 2 would rest near a dry riverbed. 1 lingered by a rocky outcrop that gave him a higher view. The youngest of the 5 often wandered slightly farther than he should, overconfident, slower to rejoin the group. That detail mattered. The lone brother learned the land again, every termite mound, every shallow dip where grass grew thicker, every approach that gave him cover for 50 meters before open ground. He stopped thinking like a challenger. He started thinking like a hunter. Weeks turned into 2 full months. The dry season tightened further. Prey grew thin. Tension inside the 5-male coalition began to show. Small scuffles, short growls over food. Alliances built on convenience are never as strong as blood, and hunger makes cracks wider. The first opportunity came at dusk. The youngest male of the 5 had fed heavily on a stolen carcass and lay apart from the others near scattered thorn brush, belly full, movement slower than usual. The coalition was not tightly formed. Distance separated them by nearly 200 meters. It was enough. The surviving brother did not roar a warning. He did not announce himself. He came low through the grass, silent, controlled, closing the gap before the resting male realized he was not alone. The attack was explosive and direct, full body impact, jaws locking high on the neck before the other lion could get his paws under him. This was not an even fight like before. This was precision. The targeted male roared for help. The sound carried, but distance steals seconds, and seconds decide outcomes. The lone brother bit deeper, driving weight downward, cutting off breath. By the time the other 4 lions reacted and started running toward the sound, the fight was already turning. The younger male tried to twist free, but the attacker shifted position perfectly, avoiding the counterbite that had nearly killed him months earlier. When the other 4 arrived, their coalition member was already collapsing. The lone brother did not stay for a prolonged battle. That was not the plan. As soon as the body went limp, he released and moved fast, retreating before the others could surround him. He vanished into thicker grass as the remaining males gathered around their fallen ally, confused and furious. 5 had become 4. For the first time since that day in the open plain, the balance had shifted, not through strength, through timing, through patience, through learning. The surviving brother did not celebrate. He did not roar victory. He disappeared again into the outer shadows of their territory, watching, waiting, because this was never about one fight. It was about all 5.
4 now, not 5, and 4 lions, no matter how strong, do not move with the same confidence as 5. The death of the youngest male did more than reduce numbers. It planted doubt. Their patrols grew tighter after that. They roared more often, louder, trying to fill a space that no longer answered back. But doubt changes rhythm, and the lone brother was still watching. He did not rush the next move. He let hunger and pressure do part of the work. The dry season was at its peak. Prey herds had shifted farther north. The remaining coalition had to travel longer distances for food, sometimes splitting into pairs to cover ground faster. That was the crack he needed. The second kill happened near a shallow water depression, almost dry, mud thick and cracked around the edges. 2 of the 4 males had fed earlier and were slow, heavy. The other 2 had moved ahead, chasing the scent of wildebeest. Distance again, space again. The lone brother came from downwind, using the tall grass as cover, closing in on the heavier of the pair, resting near the mud.
This time the fight was longer. The targeted male was older, stronger, experienced. They clashed head-on, roars tearing through the heat, paws striking hard enough to send dust in violent bursts. But the lone brother had changed since that first defeat. He stayed mobile. He avoided being pinned. He attacked the hind legs first, destabilizing balance before going for the neck. It took time. It took repeated strikes, but when the second male finally collapsed into the mud, the brother did not hesitate. He finished it, clean, direct. Then he disappeared before reinforcements arrived. 4 had become 3. Now fear began spreading inside the coalition. They stopped separating widely. They moved shoulder to shoulder again. But moving tightly slowed them down, and hunger does not wait for comfort. Tension grew between them. Growls over carcasses lasted longer. Minor clashes left fresh scratches across already scarred faces. Unity built on convenience was breaking under stress. The third confrontation was not planned, it was sudden, a night encounter near a carcass both sides had tracked. This time all 3 remaining males were together. The lone brother approached anyway, not recklessly, but decisively. He let them see him, let them recognize him, the same lion they had left alive, the one they thought would run forever. The fight exploded in darkness, 3 against 1 again, just like before, but this time he did not try to overpower all of them. He kept moving, forcing them to turn, forcing them to collide into each other in the chaos. One miscalculated step in the dark, one of the coalition males slipped on loose ground while lunging. That moment was enough. The lone brother hit him with full force, clamping onto the throat and refusing to release even as the other 2 attacked from behind. He endured bites along his back and flank, but he held position until the struggling body beneath him stopped. Then he tore free and retreated, bleeding but alive. 3 had become 2. Now the remaining pair faced something new, not just a rival, a predator who knew them, who studied them, who waited for weakness. Their roars lost depth, their patrol lines shrank. They avoided certain open stretches where the first ambush had happened. The land that once felt owned now felt exposed. The final 2 did not fall together. One disappeared during a migration push, likely caught alone while trailing prey too far from his partner. Rangers later found signs of a violent struggle near a dry channel. No full body, only blood, drag marks, and a mane tuft. The last male tried to hold territory alone for a short time, roaring at dusk as if sound could rebuild what had been lost. It couldn't. Their final encounter happened at sunrise. Open grass, clear view, no ambush this time. The last coalition male stood his ground. He understood there was nowhere left to retreat. The lone brother approached without hesitation. No circling, no warning. They collided with everything they had left. It was brutal and fast. 2 seasoned fighters trading direct blows. But exhaustion favors the one who has nothing left to lose. The lone brother drove forward, forced the other male backward step by step until balance failed and jaws found throat. The struggle ended in the same open plain where it had begun months earlier. 5 had become none. When it was over, the surviving brother did not roar long. He stood still, chest rising and falling, scars fresh and old crossing his body like a map of every fight. The land was quiet, the same land where he once watched his brother die. He had started as one of 2. Now he stood alone, but the territory belonged to him, not because he was bigger, not because he was faster, because he stayed, because he learned, and because he finished what they began.